This is the true story of Tammy and Richard, a story of survival, love, and the brutal test of fate, set against the vast, endless stretch of the ocean. For 41 harrowing days, they were trapped at sea, caught between life and death, hope and despair. As the film begins, we see a young woman inside a damaged sailboat. Water has flooded the cabin, and everything looks ruined. She's severely injured, unconscious, but now her eyes flutter open. With great effort, she pulls herself up onto the deck. The boat is barely holding together. Her name is Tammy. Panic in her voice. She starts shouting for someone, "Richard, Richard!" But there's no reply, no sound, just the ocean. They are stranded, completely alone, lost in the middle of the Pacific. What happened to them? To understand, we must go 5 months back in time. We find Tammy on a beautiful island called Tahiti. She's new here, searching for work. Someone asks her, "What do you do for a living?" She replies, with a gentle smile, "I do whatever gets me to the next place." She has no permanent home, no fixed plan. Originally from California, Tammy is now chasing something else: the world, freedom, the unknown. On this island, she meets a man, Richard. He's British, calm, adventurous. Their first conversation feels effortless, natural. Soon, Richard invites her over for dinner at his home. They sit down to eat, and Tammy notices the walls, covered in photos, from places all around the world. She's amazed. "You've been everywhere," she says. Richard smiles. "You like traveling alone?" she asks. He shakes his head. "Not really. You get soaked all the time. You barely sleep. You go days without eating. And then come the hallucinations. The mind plays tricks." Tammy is surprised. "Then why do you do it?" she asks. He looks out toward the sea and replies softly, "Because when you're out there, in the heart of the ocean, you feel reborn. There's only the wind, the water, and your boat. And in that silence, something inside you wakes up." These words touch Tammy deeply. She leans forward, excited. "I want to feel that too." Soon after, Richard invites her on his next voyage. And so, they sail together. Tammy is filled with joy. Every moment feels magical with Richard. They laugh. They share stories. They grow closer, much closer. Friendship slowly begins to turn into something more. One day, they meet an older couple, friends of Richard. The couple offers him an opportunity. They need someone in to sail their yacht back to California. In return, they'll pay Richard $10,000 and book him a first-class flight home. It's a fantastic deal, but Richard has one request. "Can you make that 2 tickets?" Because he wants Tammy with him. The couple agrees. When Richard tells Tammy, she doesn't seem happy. She doesn't want to go back to California. Sensing her hesitation, Richard says, "If you don't want this, I'll cancel the whole trip." But Tammy stops him. "No, you should go," she says. Richard takes her hand, looks into her eyes, and whispers, "After traveling halfway across the world, I found you. I don't want to lose you now." Hearing this, Tammy's heart softens. She agrees to go because somewhere along the way, they've fallen in love. Their bond, once built on laughter and curiosity, now glows with something deeper, a shared dream, a shared heart. The next day, they begin their journey across the ocean, sailing together toward California. They're happy together. They're unstoppable. And then, in the heart of that blue, endless sea, Richard does something unforgettable. He proposes with a ring he crafted himself. He slides it onto Tammy's finger. She says yes. Tears fill her eyes as she hugs him tight, because she knows this man, this moment, this journey, they all mean everything to her. The next morning, as they were heading toward California, a small bird suddenly landed on their boat. They were shocked to see it, because they were in the middle of the ocean, far from any shore, and it seemed impossible for such a small bird to have flown so far. Tammy asked Richard how he thought the bird had arrived there. Richard guessed. It had been blown off course by the powerful winds of an approaching storm. Tammy grew worried. Seeing her concern, Richard went below deck to try the radio. When he managed to get a signal, he learned that a massive hurricane was approaching their path. That explained the presence of the lost bird. The news disturbed Richard deeply. He quickly informed Tammy. She suggested they change their route and wait out the storm. They agreed, but before nightfall, the hurricane caught up with them, battering their yacht with monstrous waves they couldn't have imagined. Richard told Tammy to go inside for safety, but she refused to leave him alone. When Richard forcefully pushed her to safety, she slipped and hit the inside of the yacht, sustaining multiple injuries. At that moment, a giant wave crashed into the boat, flooding it and tossing Richard into the ocean. Tammy lay unconscious inside the flooded cabin with a serious head injury. The next morning, Tammy regained consciousness to find the yacht filled with water. She scrambled to the top and began calling for Richard desperately, but there was no response. This was the moment where the story had originally begun. The narrative now returned to the present. Tammy, heartbroken, searched the horizon with binoculars, praying to see Richard, but he was nowhere in sight. The radio wasn't working either. Crushed by failure, she collapsed on the deck, severely injured and exhausted. She eventually fell asleep. Later, she woke to find the small dinghy that was tied to the yacht was missing. Looking through her binoculars, she spotted it, drifting far away. Tammy realized Richard might be on it. Desperate to reach him, she tried starting the yacht's engine, but it didn't work, so she jumped into the water and tried to swim. But the yacht began drifting further away. Fearing she would lose both Richard and the yacht, she turned back. She noticed the yacht's sail was broken, and the hull had several cracks through which water was leaking. She first sealed the cracks with tape, then pumped all the water out of the yacht. Next, she worked on repairing the mast to raise the sail. It was a struggle, but she managed to fix it and attach a sail, allowing the yacht to move again. She finally reached the spot where Richard was, trapped in the overturned dinghy, seriously injured and unable to move. Tammy dove in, tied a rope around Richard, and with immense effort pulled him aboard. His leg was badly injured. She bandaged it as best as she could, but he was still in great pain and barely able to speak. When she checked his leg more closely, she realized the bone was broken. For the next 2 days, they were stuck in the ocean. The sail Tammy had managed to rig wasn't strong enough to give the yacht much speed, and they couldn't steer properly. When they estimated their position, they realized they were far off course in a part of the ocean where no ships usually passed, with no land in sight. Tammy grew deeply anxious. She told Richard they might not make it, but Richard reassured her, telling her not to lose hope, no matter what. At their current speed, it would take more than a month to reach California, as the wind in that region was very weak. Tammy suggested they follow the direction of the wind instead of heading straight for California. Richard hesitated, saying it would make their journey riskier and add 500 more miles to the trip. But Tammy pointed out the wind was strong in that direction, which meant their yacht could move faster. After much thought, they both decided to change course and let the wind guide them. They started sailing in that new direction, but soon they began to realize they were running out of food and fresh water. They only had enough food and water for a week, but it would take much longer to reach Hawaii. Because of this, Richard told Timmy they would need to get natural protein, that is, to catch and eat fish from the sea. But Timmy was a vegetarian. He didn't want to take any living creature's life. However, cruel fate forced him to accept fish, otherwise they would both die. Before reaching Hawaii, Timmy dove into the sea to try fishing, but failed. Despite many attempts, when he returned to the yacht, their water supply had completely run out. Yet, luck was on their side this time. Soon, it started to rain. They were overjoyed, finally able to drink fresh water. After 18 long days, Timmy collected as much water as possible. Nature's cruel reality. Despite being surrounded by an immense, salty ocean, the salt water couldn't quench their thirst. Many people lose their lives this way. In the sea, crossing such a vast ocean was not easy. No matter how much water they gathered, their food was gone. Hunger and weakness were pushing them close to death. By now, they had been stranded at sea for 29 days. Still, no shore, no ship in sight. Timmy spent time with Richard, singing to him, trying to lift their spirits. They both struggled to keep their mental strength because they knew if they gave up hope, they would never escape. But despite their efforts, their mental state kept deteriorating. One dark night, Timmy saw a flicker of hope. A huge cargo ship appeared before him, filled with hope. He ran and fired a flare gun, thinking this might be their rescue. But the ship sailed on, unaware of them, and soon disappeared from view. Timmy realized it was just an illusion. Broken, he felt they would die there, trapped, with no escape. Day by day, Richard's condition worsened. His fever rose, his foot's wound got infected. Worse yet, another storm seemed to be approaching. At that moment, all of Timmy's hope shattered, and he wept. He was certain now they would die here. They had no strength left to fight the storm, but fate was still with them. Only strong winds blew. The storm did not come. Even without a storm, their condition was dire. Timmy stayed up all night, talking to Richard. Timmy's childhood was full of hardship, and he shared those memories with Richard, lightening his own heart. The next morning, while Timmy was sleeping, Richard called to him and said he was very sick and wanted to leave. Timmy told him he could go now, and he wouldn't stop him. Looking back, Timmy saw Richard was gone. The truth was, Richard had never really been with him. After that hurricane night, he had been knocked unconscious and fallen into the sea. Timmy never found him again. Richard had died, but Timmy couldn't accept it and had kept him alive in his imagination all along. But now, Timmy accepted that Richard was truly gone. He had survived so far by keeping Richard alive in his mind. Though a vegetarian, Timmy learned to fish because in his imagination, Richard kept telling him, "You need protein to survive, accept the fish, and stay alive." Days passed. Now, 41 days had gone by. Timmy's condition was very weak. When he lost all hope, a bird suddenly flew onto his yacht. This time, it was not a sign of worry, but of joy. It meant land was near. When Timmy looked through his binoculars, he spotted land and a ship. He immediately fired his flare gun with all his might to attract the ship's attention. It was a Japanese ship. This time, luck was truly on Timmy's side. The ship saw him, came to help, gave them food and water, and tied Timmy's yacht to their ship to take him safely ashore. After spending 41 lonely days at sea, he was rescued from the brink of death. Timmy survived. Much time passed, and after full recovery, he returned to the island where he had many memories with Richard. Looking at the photos and memories with tears, he finally walked to the seashore and released Richard's ring into the ocean, bidding farewell to his old memories. And that's where the movie ends. Friends, how did you like the story? Please make sure to comment and let me know. We'll meet again with a new story, a new video. Thank you.